What's going on is Anton from AntonDaniels.com. I appreciate you guys for continuing to rock with me. The question now becomes, now that the dust is starting to settle, two things, right? A, how are we going to pay for it? And then B, what is going to be the process as far as people being able to acquire and apply for this whole forgiveness, right? Now, you already know where I stand. I don't believe that anything should be forgiven, especially student loans. I think that that is a choice that people decide to make, and they decide whether or not they want to go and get basket weaving degrees, and they decide whether or not they want to become a doctor, and they decide whether or not they want to become a lawyer or they want to get a graduate degree, so on and so forth. And part of the reason why I believe this is because, I'm reading stories and I'm looking at different reactions, and people are saying, oh, yes, now I can work less. Oh, yes, now I can take a vacation, take more vacations. Oh, yay, now I can go to graduate school. And they're not actually solving for a problem. An inherent problem is still there, but what they're doing is they're enabling more bad behavior while also giving the tax bill to us, right? And then in addition to that, you're creating an environment in which people are going to look at this and say, well, what about me? Because any way you slice it and any way you cut it, it's not fair unless you somehow, some way go back and backtrack for all of the people that did the things that were responsible as far as taking care of business and paying off their bills and, working very hard to make sure that they pay back what it is that they owe, that enabled for them to make a lot more money, because we all know that people that get degrees make at least $1 million or more than people that don't over their lifetime. But in addition to that, what about the people that decided that didn't go, that they didn't want to incur debt or take out student loans, and they just grinded and did whatever it is that they had to do, work jobs and paid for it out of their pocket or whatever? What about those people? So you know how I feel about this, right? I feel a certain type of way because I believe that despite the fact that I can acknowledge that Biden actually is delivering on his promise, I don't agree with the policy itself. But the question then becomes, what is the process and who pays for it? So let me play this video really quickly, and then we're going to go over this, and we can have this conversation.
$1 trillion student loan handout. It's getting mixed reaction on both sides of the aisle, and there are lots of questions about who qualifies for this $500 billion handout and how soon this forgiveness could show up on federal borrowers' accounts. Mark Meredith live for us in Washington with more on this. So Mark, what is the relief plan?
Well, Trace, it's still kind of being rolled out here. Good morning to you. So much of the focus this week has been on the politics of the president's plan itself. But now comes the hard part for the Department of Education as they try to clear up some of the confusion, whether it be here on college campuses or for people that have had loans for a long time, trying to explain who's going to be qualifying for debt relief and who's not. Now, the government and the White House is pointing people to one website in particular, that's studentaid.gov. But when you go to that website right now, there's only some basic information available on the page, and it's promising that more information is going to be coming. There have even been reports, though, that this website has had some issues this week with probably everybody trying to go on there.
So basically it's saying that it's a basic website, and they rolled this out, which is very interesting to me because it would seem as though once you make an announcement, you want people to be able to go and apply, or you want to give clarity as to what the instructions are, but they building it as they fly the plane, which is insane to me. Kind of reminds me of Obamacare, or the Affordable Care Act, for those of you that want the official name of it. But it reminds me of that, in that the marketplace was largely broken and it was an issue or whatever, but they were more concerned with the announcement and getting and buying votes than they were with the actual rollout and the implementation of it. But it gives you an idea of exactly what you're dealing with when it comes to the people that are in office, and that they don't understand how to look at things and take care of things from a business perspective. They do things based off of making sure that they participate in buying votes, and it's going to cost, now estimates are saying, somewhere in the $500 billion range. But let's continue.
The application for this debt relief is not ready yet. Instead, the government's telling people who are interested to sign up for an email alert to be notified when more details are ready. They're promising to get more info out by the end of this year. The details that we do have spelled out, of course, both from the White House and this website, saying Americans can expect to see between $10,000 and $20,000 worth of student loan relief, depending on both your income and the type of loan that you may have taken out. But loan advisors we spoke to say nobody should expect to see relief by next week.
So make sure you sign up for an email alert. This is so dumb. I can't understand how we go about doing things and why they would implement this in this way. Whether you agree with it or not, you have to agree with me that the way in which they go about doing things and implementation and policies. Listen, one of the biggest things that people were complaining about used to be the idea of nobody had any clarification or clarity on how you can get your stuff forgiven if you worked in public service for the first 10 years of your career. And what is the qualifications for income-based repayment and all of these other things. And they're just now starting to fix that. So if you think that they're going to roll this out and it's going to be smooth, you are sadly mistaken. And we're going to see the fallout from that also. But they're more concerned with the polling numbers and the approval rating. And so we're going to see what happens.
This is a huge endeavor, and people should not expect to see that forgiveness happen tomorrow. I think it's still going to be months before we see everybody who's eligible for this forgiveness get it. So I've been trying to counsel patience and set that expectation.
And while this announcement was just made a few days ago, we're already hearing reports of scammers targeting people that may think that they can get their relief faster or get a check sent to them. But of course, those experts telling us that the application for this debt relief not even available yet. So of course, be careful if anybody's offering to help you cut the line.
So scammers is already on top of it, trying to take advantage of people that want student debt relief, and that they're saying that, hey, you might be able to get your stuff faster, or you can cut the line and all of this. Boy, oh boy, tell me that I did not see this coming. It says the White House remains mum, Americans and the debt relief for Americans, or if the future tax hikes will be needed to cover the proposal, which by some estimates costs more than half a $500 billion. Let me back up. Since the current plan calls for the government to forgive the debt, that means taxpayers are likely on the hook for much of the principal and interest dumped on top of the nearly $31 trillion in existing U.S. debt. What's after $1 trillion? I don't know. I'm a C student. What's after $1 trillion? Because we going there. We going there. They asked how they were planning to pay for it. They didn't respond to the question. Officials, while not addressing how the added spending will be offset, have argued in recent days that the national deficit is already plunging under Biden's watch. They said we actually achieved $350 billion in deficit reduction. Not anymore. This year, and this year is projected by the end of this year to be a $1.7 trillion deficit reduction. So basically, they're saying that the cost that they save, they're going to give it over to the people. They're not going to pay off the debt. Then they're not going to actually reduce the debt or the deficit. They're actually going to give it back to those that actually don't deserve it. They say that the average cost per taxpayer could basically be $2,000. But that can be on the low end. The Committee for Responsible Budget puts the cost of the handouts between $440 billion and $600 billion. So it actually can be a lot more. Look at all of these people running in the Victim Olympics. Anyways, just continuing to keep you guys afloat on what's going on in our economy and what's happening in these legislative branches. So while they're doing things behind the scenes to ensure that you continue to run in the Victim Olympics, I'm going to be bringing you the insight and information and help you to understand how it comes back to the money. I love you. I appreciate you. I'd love to know what your thoughts are in the comments. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit a like for the YouTube algorithm, turn on your notifications. More importantly, if you'd like to join a Patreon, in which we're doing some awesome things in which I fly to a different city every month to make sure that I interact with the people that more closely aligns with building out a network, becoming the best version of themselves, and also talking about that money. Make sure you tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat, as well as mastermind sessions, exclusive content. And then more importantly, I have an interview coming up with all of my good friends, both from the business community and controversial people only on the internet, and such as I think the next one that I'm releasing is Charleston White. So exclusive interview with him. That'd be dope. And then also on top of that, if you need to get in touch with me, email me at antondaniels413@gmail.com and we're going to get you popping. I love you. I appreciate you. Don't run into the Victim Olympics. I'm going to holler at y'all later. Peace.